When people think of medieval dangers, they usually picture knights, swords, and maybe the occasional plague. But there's something we often forget about the medieval world. It wasn't just rival kingdoms people had to fear. It was the natural world itself. Back then, the forests were alive, not just with fairy tales, but with real, hungry predators. Wolves roamed in packs. Bears weren't confined to zoos. They wandered into villages. Wild boars, bigger and meaner than anything we see today. Even eagles could be a threat to livestock or small children. The medieval countryside wasn't some quiet, peaceful place. It was a battleground where survival wasn't guaranteed. Without fences, guns, or modern technology, people had to rely on cleverness, community, and instincts honed over generations. Today, we're diving into 7 of the smartest, most creative strategies medieval people used to protect themselves from becoming part of the food chain. If you've ever gone hiking where bears live, you might know the rule. Make noise, don't sneak. Medieval people figured this out centuries earlier. Traveling alone through dark woods? That was an invitation for trouble. But traveling in a noisy group? That was safety. Medieval folks understood predators preferred easy, quiet prey. So groups made deliberate noise as they moved, not because they were being careless, but because noise kept them alive. Singing loudly, clapping, banging pots together, even carrying rattles or bells wasn't uncommon. They wanted predators to hear them long before they crossed paths. Wolves and bears aren't just strong, they're cautious. They'd rather avoid unpredictable humans than risk a confrontation. A noisy group suggested numbers, strength, and awareness. It wasn't just about avoiding a surprise attack, it was about sending a loud, clear message through the trees. We're here, we're watching, and we're not afraid. Fire wasn't just a source of warmth, it was a weapon of fear, and not just against the dark. Medieval people knew animals understood fire instinctively, but they didn't rely on just one big fire to keep predators at bay. They got tactical. Campsites weren't left in darkness beyond a single flame. Instead, they'd set up multiple small fires around the perimeter. A circle of flames created the illusion of movement and activity. To a predator watching from the shadows, this wasn't a camp of sleeping victims. It was a guarded, alert human territory. Some would even leave fires burning overnight in abandoned fields, not to warm crops, but to warn off wolves. A line of torchlight wasn't decorative. It was a barrier. These people turned simple fire into a psychological wall. Predators didn't understand why humans controlled flame. They just knew to stay away from it. It wasn't just knights who wore protection. Ordinary people layered up not for fashion, but survival. Thick wool cloaks weren't just for warmth. They were armor against bites and scratches. Beneath wool, toughened leather added another layer of defense, especially over vital areas like the chest, thighs, and shoulders. In areas with known predators, shepherds and travelers often wore hardened hides, basically medieval padding, to make it harder for teeth or claws to break skin. The shape of clothing mattered too. Large cloaks made people seem bigger, less inviting to a hungry wolf. A silhouette plays tricks on a predator's instincts. Even a simple staff wasn't just a walking stick. It extended height, provided defense, and made noise if struck against the ground. Every layer, every tool had purpose. In a world without first aid kits or quick help, your clothes weren't just comfort. They were your first line of defense. Long before the phrase man's best friend existed, medieval people trusted dogs not for companionship, but for survival. These weren't pampered lapdogs. They were enormous, battle-hardened beasts. Breeds like mastiffs or wolfhounds were raised for size, strength, and aggression, specifically to protect against predators. A lone farmer with a dog was twice as dangerous as one without. Travelers brought dogs on purpose, knowing a barking, snarling animal could scare off even a determined wolf pack. Farmers kept packs of guard dogs around livestock. Their barking served as both a deterrent and an alarm. These animals weren't just muscle. They were intelligent, trained, and capable of taking down threats, or at least giving their human time to escape. Even bears learned to avoid areas patrolled by large, aggressive dogs. In a world without reinforced doors or electric fences, a dog's loyalty and bite could mean the difference between life and death. Medieval people didn't just build for shelter, they built for survival. Fences weren't simple boundaries, they were defenses. High wooden walls, often spiked, made it nearly impossible for wolves to leap over or bears to climb. Barns were designed with narrow, awkward entrances, not inconvenient by accident, but strategic. A predator couldn't easily fit through. Doors were reinforced with heavy wood and sometimes iron to withstand claws or brute force. Around farms, shiny metal objects were sometimes placed to reflect firelight, creating the illusion of eyes watching in the dark. This wasn't superstition, it played on animal instincts. Animals fear being watched, even if they don't understand why. Some farmers even built fake human silhouettes near pens to confuse would-be predators. Every beam, every spike, every awkward angle had a reason. Keep danger out. Protect what matters inside. Predators watch patterns. Medieval farmers knew this better than anyone. Leaving animals in the same pen, the same barn, night after night, was asking for trouble. Wolves especially notice routines. They stalk, they observe, they learn when and where prey is vulnerable. To combat this, farmers rotated their animals' locations. Some nights the sheep might be penned near the house. Other nights moved to a barn further out. Sometimes penned inside, sometimes out. This broke patterns, confused predators, and kept livestock unpredictable. Animals were also moved based on moonlight, weather, or signs of predators nearby. Moving animals wasn't just practical, it was strategic. It forced wolves and bears to keep guessing. If the animals aren't where you expect them to be, the hunt becomes riskier. In nature, unpredictability often means survival. Medieval people didn't rely solely on dogs for defense. They knew that certain animals made excellent early warning systems. Geese, for example, weren't just raised for eggs. Their honking, aggressive behavior made them natural alarms. Place a few near a barn, and the slightest movement would set them off, sending a noisy alert through the night. Donkeys, too, were valued for more than hauling loads. Their loud braying and unpredictable kicks could drive off wolves or alert humans before predators got too close. Even pigs had their place in defense. Startled, they screamed loud enough to wake a village. This wasn't accidental. People placed these animals strategically around perimeters to ensure no predator could sneak close without causing chaos. These weren't just farm animals. They were part of the security system. Loud, reactive, impossible to ignore, and often enough to scare off an opportunistic threat. The medieval world wasn't safe. Nature didn't care about borders, property, or human plans. Survival depended on understanding the enemy, whether that was a wolf, a bear, or something even hungrier. Medieval people used every tool available: fire, noise, dogs, architecture, unpredictability, and the instincts of other animals. These weren't random habits. They were strategies passed down through generations, refined through hard-earned experience. And while today we might rely on cameras, alarms, and sturdy fences, there's still something timeless about these old methods. They remind us that survival doesn't always come from technology. Sometimes it comes from observation, creativity, and a deep understanding of how nature and predators really work. So now I'm curious, which of these old survival tricks do you think is the smartest? Would you trust a goose to protect your home, or would you rather walk with a massive dog by your side? Let me know in the comments below. I read them all. And if you love exploring how people survived in the harshest times without modern technology, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Because here at Medieval Mind Revealed, we're not just telling stories from the past, we're rediscovering the wisdom they left behind.